The morning I found out my brother and his wife had moved into my apartment, I was standing in a hospital parking lot in 30-degree weather, still in my scrubs, holding a box of my own things. Not my things from a storage unit, not things I'd asked someone to bring me. My things. From my apartment. The one I'd been paying rent on for 2 years. Let me back up. I'm a nurse, night shifts, mostly. I work at a regional hospital about 40 minutes outside of Columbus, and I've been doing it since I was 24. I'm 31 now. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because the schedule matters. It matters a lot, actually. My brother, I'll call him what he is, older brother, 3 years on me. He married a woman named Sasha about 4 years ago. I liked Sasha at first. She was funny, a little sharp around the edges. But I thought that was just nerves, wedding nerves, new family nerves. I gave her every benefit of the doubt I had. They lived in a 2-bedroom condo about 20 minutes from me. Bought it together. His name, her name, on the deed. I know because I was there the day they signed. About 18 months ago, my brother called me. He said things were tight. His contracting business had lost a big client, some commercial build that fell through when the developer backed out. Sasha had cut her hours at work. She'd been having some health issues. He said, nothing serious, just draining. They were behind on the HOA, behind on one of their car payments. Not drowning, he said, but close. He asked if he could borrow money. I said yes. Not a huge amount. Enough to cover what they needed right then. I didn't ask for a repayment schedule. I didn't make him sign anything. He was my brother. 2 months later he called again, different ask. He said they were thinking about renting out their condo. They could make more subletting it than their mortgage cost. He'd found a short-term rental loophole in their HOA agreement. And they needed somewhere to stay while they figured out their next move. Just a few months, he said. Maybe 3. My apartment has 2 bedrooms. The second one I use as a home office/storage, but there's a bed in there. A real bed. I'd had it set up for when my mother visited. I said yes, again. He asked what the rent would be, and I told him not to worry about it. He pushed back, said he wanted to pay something, that it wasn't right otherwise. I told him $600 a month, which was less than a third of what my place actually cost. He said that was too low. I said take it or leave it. He took it. The first month he paid, cash, which was a little odd but fine. Second month, Venmo. Third month, nothing. I texted him about it. He said Sasha had been in the hospital for a few days, just precautionary. He'd get it to me soon. I let it go. By month 4, they still hadn't paid, and I'd stopped asking because every time I brought it up, something was wrong. The car. Sasha's follow-up appointments. A leak in their condo they were dealing with remotely. There was always something. And I want to be honest here, I wasn't tracking it that carefully. I know how that sounds. But I was working nights, I was exhausted, and these were my family. I trusted that it would sort itself out. What I didn't realize was that sorting itself out was not in anyone's plans except mine. I was scheduled for a 4-day stretch of nights, Sunday through Wednesday. I left my apartment Sunday evening at 9 o'clock, said goodbye to my brother who was watching something on my couch, told Sasha I'd see her Thursday, grabbed my bag, and drove to work. Thursday morning, I got off my last shift at 7. I stopped at the gas station near the hospital because I needed coffee more than I needed oxygen at that point. Drove home, pulled into my parking space. The first thing I noticed was a different car in one of the guest spots. I didn't think much of it. People have visitors. The second thing I noticed was my key didn't work. I stood at my own front door for probably 30 seconds, trying the same key 3 times before I accepted that it was the wrong key. Except it wasn't the wrong key. It was the same key I'd had for 2 years. The lock had just been changed. I knocked. Nobody answered. I knocked again, harder. I called my brother's cell. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called Sasha. Same thing. I sat down on the small concrete step outside my apartment door, in my scrubs, at 7:30 in the morning after 4 night shifts, and I called my building manager. He picked up on the second ring, which honestly surprised me. I asked him if there had been any maintenance done on my unit, specifically the lock. He paused. Then he said, "Your brother came in Tuesday. Said he needed to rekey the lock because you'd lost your keys and asked him to handle it." I said, "I didn't lose my keys." Another pause. "I have a work order signed by a resident of the unit." I asked him which resident. He said, "My brother had told the front office I'd authorized him to handle building matters while I was on a stretch of overnight shifts." I was very calm when I said it. "I don't know how," I said. "I am the only resident of that unit. My brother is a guest. I did not authorize him to change my locks." There was a long silence. Then the building manager said he'd meet me downstairs in 10 minutes. He brought a maintenance key. He let me into my own apartment. What I found inside is the part that still makes me sit down when I think about it too long. The second bedroom, my office, had been cleared out. My desk, my filing cabinet, my printer, my extra monitor, all of it was stacked in the living room corner, shoved against the wall under a moving blanket. The closet in that room, which had held 2 boxes of my mother's things she'd left with me for storage, was empty. Their stuff was everywhere, not just in the second bedroom, in the bathroom, in the kitchen cabinets. Sasha's skincare lined up on my bathroom counter. A toddler's toys on my living room floor. I stood there and I said out loud, to nobody, "There's a child here." My brother has a stepson, 7 years old. From Sasha's previous relationship, I had met the kid twice at family events. I had not agreed to have a child move into my apartment. I called my brother again. This time he answered. "Oh good, you're home," he said. "I was going to text you. We made some adjustments while you were at work, just to use the space better. Hope that's okay," I said. "You changed my locks. Just rekeyed them." "Yeah, we can get you a copy made. Where are my things from the office?" "In the living room. I didn't want to throw anything away." "Where are my mother's boxes from the closet?" Silence. We needed the closet space. Ren needed somewhere. Where are her boxes? He said they were in the storage unit in the parking garage. My storage unit, which I pay $11 a month extra for. He had used his own key, the one I gave him to get his mail, which I'd been collecting while they got their address sorted. To access it, I hung up. I sat on my own couch, in my scrubs, and I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry, and too angry to cry, and both of those things sort of canceled each other out and left me very, very still. I texted my coworker, Janelle. We'd been friends for about 3 years. We didn't socialize much outside of work, but we had the kind of friendship that runs deep anyway, the kind that forms when you spend enough consecutive hours in crisis, together. I told her what had happened. She called me back in 2 minutes. "I want to tell you about Janelle, because she matters. She's not a lawyer. She's a nurse. Same as me." But her mother had gone through an eviction dispute with a family member about 5 years back. A messy situation involving a cousin who wouldn't leave, and Janelle knew things about tenant law in Ohio that I did not. She knew them the way you know things, your family learned the hard way. She said, "Do you have any record that he's been paying you rent? Anything in writing?" I pulled up my Venmo, 1 payment, from month 2, $600. The memo said rent. 1 word. That 1 word. She said, "That's enough. That makes him a tenant." And in Ohio, a tenant, even a family member, cannot be removed without proper notice and a legal eviction process. And changing your locks on a co-occupant you let in voluntarily? That's a whole separate issue. I said, "He changed the locks on me. I'm the leaseholder." She said, "Oh, that's different. That's way different." She told me to call the non-emergency police line first to document what happened. Then she told me to contact a tenants' rights organization she'd used for her mother's situation, because they also help landlords in informal arrangements, and they'd know exactly what my options were. I made both calls before noon. The police came, 2 officers. They were very matter-of-fact about it. I showed them my lease, my ID, my mail addressed to me at that address. One of them called my building manager, who confirmed everything I'd said. They documented that the lock had been changed without my authorization, and that I had been denied entry to my own leased unit. The officer, a woman, maybe a few years older than me, who had the kind of face that had heard everything, said, "Your brother is going to need to understand that what he did has a name." I asked what name. She said unlawful exclusion. I didn't know that term. I do now. The tenant's rights advisor I spoke with that afternoon was a man named, I'm going to call him my advisor, because that's what he was, and he walked me through the situation in about 45 minutes on the phone. He said I had a very clean case. The Venmo payment established a tenancy. My brother being on the lease as a guest did not give him authority to alter the property. Rekeying a lock without the leaseholder's consent was unlawful. And if I had been locked out of my own home while he remained inside, that was constructive eviction of me, the person who actually held the lease, he said. You can also claim the rent he owes you. How many months? I had to count. 3 full months he hadn't been. 1 partial. At the original rate of $600 a month, and he pointed out that rate was well below market value, which mattered. I was owed somewhere between $1,800 and $2,400. He said, we can help you file a small claims action, and separately, you can report the unlawful lock change to your building, which may constitute a lease violation on their end, depending on how your lease reads. I went back and read my lease. It did. I'm not going to walk you through every piece of paperwork because that part took about 3 weeks, and it was honestly just a lot of faxing and waiting and making phone calls during my lunch breaks. But I want to tell you about the day my brother came home and found the notice to vacate taped to the inside of the door. I had gone back into the apartment, with a locksmith this time, with the building manager present, and had the lock rekeyed back. My lock. My key. And then I'd slid a copy of the official notice under the door, before I left again to give him time to find it without me standing there. He called me at 6:30 that evening. I was at work. What is this? He said. I said, it's what it says it is. You're kicking me out. Your own family. I want to be accurate about what I said next. I thought about it for 3 weeks. I didn't yell it. I didn't rehearse it into the mirror. I just said it. I said, you locked me out of my apartment. You moved a child into my home without asking. You haven't paid rent in 3 months. I'm not kicking you out. You made this what it is. He said, Sasha's not doing well. No, we don't have anywhere. You have a condo. You can stop the short-term rental arrangement. The tenants have a contract through. That's something you'll need to figure out. He hung up. He called back. I let it go to voicemail. He texted my mother. My mother called me. My mother is a complicated conversation. She loves both of us. She understood. She said, she just also wanted me to understand that my brother was under a lot of pressure, and Sasha was not well, and the little boy needed stability. I told her I was a night shift nurse who had come home after 4 consecutive overnight shifts to find herself locked out of her own apartment. She was quiet for a while, then she said, I know. That was enough. I wasn't asking her to choose sides. I wasn't asking anyone to take. I just needed to say what had happened out loud to someone who knew us both. My brother and Sasha vacated the apartment 11 days later, which was 3 days before the legal deadline. They did not pay what they owed before leaving. They left the kitchen in decent shape, which I appreciated. They left a small dent in the wall of the second bedroom from the bed frame they'd brought in. They took all of Sasha's skincare from my bathroom counter, which I also appreciated. The small claims judgment came through about 6 weeks after that. He owed me $2,100. The judge calculated it based on the Venmo record, the duration of occupancy, and the original verbal agreement confirmed by text messages. I found 3 texts from early on where we'd explicitly discussed the $600 a month. I had not thought of those texts as evidence at the time. I was just texting my brother. He hasn't paid it yet. That was 8 months ago. I have the option to pursue wage garnishment. I haven't decided. My mother had us both to dinner in January. My brother and I sat at the same table and ate the same pot roast and talked about things that were not the apartment and not the money and not the lock. His business is picking up again. Sasha is doing better, health-wise. The little boy just lost his first tooth. I don't hate my brother. I want to be clear about that. I don't hate Sasha. There's a part of me, a part I don't love having, that understood why they did what they did. Pressure does strange things to people. Fear of not having enough does stranger things. But I also know this. I paid for that apartment every month for 2 years. I work nights so that I can do the job I trained for. I came home after 4 of those nights and couldn't get into my own front door. There's a word for that. My advisor told me what it was. The officer told me what it was. I had to learn what it was the hard way, the way Janelle's mother had learned it before me. And now I know it, the way you know things that cost you something to find out. The rent I said don't worry about. With $800 I'll probably never see. I don't think about that as lost money anymore. I think about it as what it cost me to understand that a key with your name on it means nothing if you don't know what it entitles you to. Now I know.